Well, good afternoon, everyone. We can technically say it's 12 o'clock. Welcome to everyone in HQ here, my panelists, and welcome to everyone who is on ESA Web TV. I have the pleasure here to have this update on Ariane 6 press meeting, as we have on a regular basis with the concourse of our partners.
Please unmute yourself from the room. You are muted.
Say that again, Nina.
Apparently we are muted.
No, we are unmuted.
Try and mute and unmute and on.
Can you hear us fine? I hope so. Can you hear us?
It remains muteless.
Okay, well, since I have no retour, I was saying good afternoon to everyone and welcome to the four organizations around the table here in Paris. Welcome to everyone who is online. And we're here for about an hour to discuss, as agreed on a monthly basis, right after the important meeting that you have held recently on Ariane 6. Events over the weekend on the test. All updates will be given by ESA Director General Josef Aschbacher, joined by Martin Sion, who is the Chief Executive Officer of ArianeGroup, and Philippe Baptiste, CEO as well, and President of CNES, the French Space Agency. Along with us also Stéphane Israël, who is the CEO from Arianespace, and as support we have Carine Leveau, who is the Director of Space Transportation in CNES, along with Toni, Tolker-Nielsen, who is the Director of Space Transportation at the European Space Agency. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over to Josef Aschbacher for a short introduction. Thank you, Josef.
So thank you, Philippe, and very warm welcome also from my side to ESA headquarters. It's the first of these press briefings we do in our new headquarters, and I'm very happy to be joined here by my colleagues from ArianeGroup, CNES, Arianespace, to report to you on the progress of the update on the launches. So this is really one of the regular press briefings we have. Of course, one of the focus of today's session will be the hot firing test we had last Friday, but not only. We would like to give you a bit of a wider context on where we stand, what's happening now, what happened over the last few weeks over summer, and what is upcoming in terms of major milestones in the development of Ariane 6. But maybe before that, just to recall that we are speaking here really as a team. We have what we call a task force of Ariane 6, which is discussing regularly, about every 2 to 3 weeks, what is the status of the development of Ariane 6. This task force meets at CEO level, so exactly the people you see here together with me, so Martin, Philippe, Stefan, and myself. I'm chairing the task force, and of course with our teams who are working on numerous aspects of it. In addition to this Ariane 6 task force, we have what we call a streamlined management team, which is really the team that does the work, if I may so, day to day. This is also the same people of the task force. The lead in this case is with Toni Tolker-Nielsen, but of course with a very, very strong and heavy involvement of ArianeGroup, CNES in particular, and of course Arianespace as regards the establishment of the launch manifest. So this is really the working mechanisms which we have put in place. First of all, to make sure that in the last phase of the Ariane 6 development, we have full control. This is Chief Executive Officer's attention. That means we regularly at our level review progress, give guidelines, and also make decisions on upcoming milestones. And this really has the top attention of all of us, including, of course, all our workforce which are engaged in this. Let me also say that the Ariane 6 development is a major undertaking, and a lot of people are involved in the various industries and institutions. Also, my task as ESA DG is to keep our member states regularly informed. We are doing this through not only the council sessions, which we have every 3 months, but also in between. There is a dialogue established with our member states of ESA that is regularly providing updates. And as you have seen on your side in terms of the public and journalists. We are publishing after not every, but every second roughly task force meeting web story, which we put online. We have decided to do this in June because I'm very committed to provide full transparency on the ongoing activities and what we do, and therefore these are regular updates, including, by the way, today a web story will be released also in parallel or after this session here to give you in writing the update of this progress. So this is a bit how we work, and I thought it is important to recall some of it because I think this is important to understand. Let me now say a word on the importance of the Ariane test campaigns and what happens there, why we do them. Of course, you all are very familiar with this because you very regularly report. But just to say that we have two major streams of tests on Ariane 6 that are being conducted. One of the first stage, the main stage with the Vulcan engine. They are taking place in Kourou with the very strong support of CNES, who is in charge of the launch base. And Philippe will say a word afterwards on the combined tests as they are ongoing and as they are being conducted. And then, of course, the upper stage, which is the Vinci engine, which has been tested last Friday quite successfully, I should say, on which is the upper stage. And there we had a major success. And again, this will be reported to you by Martin, but also we will have our colleagues connected from DLR, because that test was conducted from Lampoldshausen at the DLR test facilities, but of course under the industrial leadership of ArianeGroup. So these are the main tests that we are conducting. Of course, tests are there to make sure that we are on the safe side of our developments, that we do what we can do on the ground to ensure that the rocket is and the engines are functioning nominally. They are quite complex. They are quite important milestones, and they are really the decisive moments when we see how the engine reacts under full throttle, so under full burning conditions, because we simulate the flights on the ground and really test the engines for all eventualities. Of course, for nominal functions, but what we also test is degraded functions, as we call it. That means if something is not going according to schedule, we're having also test runs that consider that, just making sure that all safety measures and all measures are being taken into account. So there have been a number of tests that are ongoing and have taken place and will take place. We had, sure you have all seen the announcements of the hot firing test in early this year in January in Lampoldshausen. Then we had the first combined test, which was on the 18th of July. We had the hot firing test, the main one, we call it hot firing test number 3, on the 1st of September. We have another test tomorrow, the combined test, which is in a way a repetition and continuation of the test of the 18th of July. We have another combined test, but in this case, a long hot firing test in early October. And after that date, we will then be in a position to define a launch period of Ariane 6, which we will now announce again to you after this series of tests have been conducted. Maybe one last word on my side about the overall context. Of course, access to space is a must for Europe, guaranteed access to space, and this is why we put all this attention on developing the Ariane 6 launcher. This is fundamental. We have important political milestones upcoming, in addition, of course, to our regular meetings with the ESA Council. We have a space summit planned for the 6th and 7th of November. We have three topics on this space summit. One of them is launches. The other one is climate change and sustainability. And the third one is exploration. But as you see, launches is connecting everything, is fundamental for climate change as well as exploration, but also navigation, telecom, and all the space activities we do. So therefore, it's fundamental. And we are quite intensely working with our member states on two domains towards the space summit. One is the exploitation of the Ariane 6 launcher. That means making sure Ariane 6 and Vega C, I should say, Ariane 6 and Vega C launchers, to make sure that once they are flying, that we have an exploitation scenario that is stabilized, and therefore we are ensured of a ramp up that should be quite fast in order to ensure the launches to come. And the second topic we're discussing also with member states is how do we go beyond Ariane 6 and Vega C and Vega E in the medium to long-term future. That means in the 30s, so way in the middle of the next decade or beyond. But today, decisions need to be taken in order to really develop the future. And these are, of course, for your information, also elements that need to be considered now. And this will also be part of the political debate that goes to the Space Summit. Let me stop here. Thank you for this, for giving me the floor for the introduction, and I hand back to Philippe.
Thank you, Josef Aschbacher, and I would like to hand over to Martin Sion, the CEO from ArianeGroup, for further detail on the Ariane 6 development.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to have this quick update on the situation of the Ariane 6 status. So on the launcher side, the big news is obviously the test which has been successfully performed last week. As said by Josef, this test was a test performed at DLR in Germany, and it's a test which has been performed by the ArianeGroup team with DLR, with ESA, and I have to say that the team have made a tremendous job. It was a complex test and it was successful. So what was done? It's a complete upper stage with the tanks, all the systems, the restartable Vinci engine, and the APU. The APU is a specific device which is an innovation on Ariane 6, which allow Ariane 6 to make very complex missions to be able to answer to the needs of a variety of customers. And it allows to make different orbits, different boosts, etc. So it's the first time the whole equipment of the upper stage were tested at the same time. And we made a simulation of the full mission. And we went up to the end of the full operational mission, which is a success. It means that if it had been a flight, the flight would have been, this phase of the flight would have been successful. Now what we have to do is to analyze the huge amount of data which have been gathered during this test to make sure and to confirm the fact that this test is a full success. And after that, we will be in a situation where we can confirm quite rapidly that the upper stage is flight ready. Nevertheless, we will keep on having some tests at DLR in a degraded mode with a failure simulation, because it's important to explore the margins of our hardware to make sure that as soon as possible, Ariane 6 has the same reliability as Ariane 5, which was a benchmark in its class. So this is on the upper stage part, which is a more complex part of Ariane 6, sorry. And on the main stage, the tests are done in Kourou with CNES, who is in charge of the launch pad. As it has been already said, we did a full chronology of launch up to the ignition of the chamber in July. And tomorrow we will make a test which goes where we start the engine, we go to full power, up to 4 seconds of full power. And this will prepare the full test, which will be in 1 month, where we do 470 seconds of operation of the Vulcan 2 engine on the launch pad at Kourou. And this will be a very critical milestone to prepare for the launch of Ariane 6. So I will stop here for the launcher, and I will take the questions if there is some more details which are required.
Thank you very much, Martin. So we've spoken about this test of last night, or not last night, but the day before. Time is going so fast. Friday evening, that was a long weekend. We have some image that we would like to share with you, and then also take on the line the director of the German Aerospace Center in DLR Lampoldshausen. So short video for you. So on the telephone line, we have Stefan Schlechtriem, who is the director of the DLR Lampoldshausen establishment in Germany. Stefan, can you hear us? Stefan, I know it was a bit of a struggle this morning from where you are, but can you hear us? Nope. So we will get back to you shortly. In the meantime, I will hand over to Philippe Baptiste, CEO and President of CNES. Please, Philippe.
Thank you very much, Philippe. So I will mostly focus on the launch pad and on the combined test. So CNES is a prime contractor for the launch pad, and the good news of the summer is that at the end of July, we basically handed over the keys to ESA, stating basically that it was the end of the development phase of the launch pad. And of course, now all the teams are really focused on the combined test. And perhaps just to explain again what the combined test is, it's really the time where you put together the launch pad and the launcher, and you make all the check. I mean, mechanical, electrical, but also the software test to be sure that, and the 3D test to be sure that everything works fine together. So that's really something which is really very important, and it's absolutely mandatory to move to the next phase, which is the overall qualification of the launcher. So perhaps to come back again to a little bit to what happened in July, and then I will come back on the next step in tomorrow and later on. So on July the 18th, we ran the full chronology of the launcher on the launch pad, so something that lasted 26 hours non-stop. And so basically we tried all the steps of the chronology as if it were a real launch, including of course the move of the gantry, but also all the liquid systems, the software test, the ignition of the Vulcain, and everything worked really fine. And it was really a great achievement. It took, if we compare to what happened to Ariane 5, so quite some years ago, it took much more time to do that. So it was really smooth and worked very well. So tomorrow we will have again we will repeat the full chronology, and we'll this time have the ignition of the Vulcain for a slightly longer time period, for a few seconds. Full power, and the objective is to make two kinds of tests, mostly acoustic tests, but also airflow tests, to be sure that everything is running according to the model and according to the plan. Then the next step within the next 4 weeks, or in 4 weeks, sorry, will be of course the long firing test, as it was mentioned earlier by Martin Sion. So this time the Vulcain will be running for the full duration of a typical mission, so something like 450 seconds. And of course, this will be really the next gate to the overall qualification of the launcher. But we are really in a phase where we make the most important and the most stressful test for Ariane 6 and its launch and the launch pad. And that's really the reason why, as it was mentioned before by Josef, that it's really at the end of this test that we will be able to give a full chronology for the next few months.
Very good. Thank you very much. While we're doing all this progress and positive progress, of course, we'd like to turn to the customer side. Stefan, Israel from Arianespace, please.
Yes, so hello everybody. I want to thank our colleagues for this very good news in July and what has happened Friday, and we cross fingers for tomorrow. Yes, so indeed, we have Arianespace, the equivalent of 28 Ariane 6 in our order book. And you know that these 28 Ariane 6 are made of 18 for a constellation called Kuiper for Amazon, but also GTO launches for Inter Alia, Intelsat, Eutelsat, and Optus. And last but not least, for sure, our dear institutional customers for EUMETSAT, for ESA and the European Commission, and for CNES DGA. As you can imagine, we are in a permanent dialogue and contact with our customers. And the DNA of Arianespace is to give all the transparency to the customer. So this is for sure what our teams do in full coordination with ArianeGroup, ESA, and CNES. And we give all the detail on the milestone, which are behind us, but which are also ahead of us, for the maiden flight, but also for the targeted ramp up. And this is very important for our customers, for sure. I want to say that the impressive number of Ariane 6, which have been already sold, are the fact of three evidence. First, Ariane 6 is highly expected by our customers. Second, Ariane 6 is perfectly adapted to both institutional and commercial needs and new market trends. And last but not least, but it has been said by my colleagues, what have been demonstrated Friday is the proof of the versatility of Ariane 6. You know that one of the key innovations of Ariane 6 is a restartable Vinci, and which is supported by the auxiliary power unit. And what has been demonstrated is very convincing for what we will have to do for our customers, be it institutional or commercial, what we will have to deliver in orbital phases for constellation. So this is why it was so important to have the milestone successfully reached on Friday. The maiden flight is a key topic of today, for sure, but you know that with all our partners, we are preparing a very ambitious ramp-up, and this is the next step. And in parallel, we have, for sure, some discussions with our customers for new opportunities on Ariane 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And while Stefan Schlechtriem was on the line to listen to us, he was not able to express himself. So as we do with the Ariane 6, we find always a way. So I will try to put you through the microphone, Stefan, so to give your impression. You had a very great weekend, so you are with us.
Yes, hello, Philippe. Many thanks for helping us in these connections. Hello to everybody from Lampoldshausen. After the team successfully run down the test facility, they are in a celebration mode and, of course, looking for the next test to come. Hello, Josef, Philippe, Martin, Toni. Thanks a lot for all the nice wishes to the team. The team is extremely happy. I pass my regards from them to all of you. They are extremely happy. As you have pointed out, the test on Friday was really flawless, I would say. It becomes a routine in Lampoldshausen. The task force, Josef, I think we protected the team which we have in Lampoldshausen, the combined team from ArianeGroup engineers and DLR employees, the best we could. We are supporting them permanently and they feel this. And now I think, as Martin has pointed out, we really have done this complex test with parallel firing of the APU and the engines. The team is extremely happy, wants to move forward and to fly the Ariane 6 as soon as possible. So from Lampoldshausen, good messages, was a big relief, and we will keep on working and supporting the Ariane 6 program. And it was really a fantastic team spirit of ESA employees, ArianeGroup employees, and DLR, and we will keep it like this. Best wishes from Lampoldshausen.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and I was glad to hear you. Stay on the web. You can follow us on the ESA Web TV, and we will call you if we have a question. So I would like to move on to the question and answers from the attendants, and I have a first question here from Pierre Célérier, AFP. So Pierre, if you can unmute your microphone, you can be with us. Pierre? So if you can't, then I will unfortunately read your question, which I have here on my telephone. Autumn test of the upper stage, are they part of the qualification campaign for the inaugural flight?
So if the question is if we need the the additional test for the flight, the answer is yes, even if it's margin test and to be sure that we have a system which is very robust. So in the qualification will be based on the tests which have been performed, but nevertheless, we want to have done this margin test before the flight of Ariane 6. This is planned that way. And since the test has been well done on Friday, as said by Stefan Schlechtriem, there is the facility is now well mastered. I think that it won't be a difficulty to make this test in due time. And but this is something to be done before the flight because, as I said, we've got a progressive development logic to guarantee reliability because reliability is a key asset of Ariane from the beginning. And this is what we want to do on Ariane 6.
Yeah. Maybe just to add one word, as Martin was saying, so yes, these flights are necessary, but also we are testing degraded scenarios. That means scenarios if something might not happen exactly according to plan, in order to be sure that also in this case we have a robust launcher. And yes, this is the plan for HFT4, so that means the next test in Lampoldshausen. Thank you. Since we have just heard Mr. Schlechtriem, thanks a lot for your Lampoldshausen colleagues and support. Much appreciated, and the news that came out from there, I can tell you, put big smiles on all our faces. Really appreciate it. Yeah?
We didn't see the big smile, but we've seen the video and everybody was very happy over there and hope so tomorrow in Kourou. I would like to move on to Jonathan Amos from BBC. Since I have the questions, I wait for 2 seconds. Okay, I go for the question unless you're online, Jonathan. Okay, the question is the following. Was there any reason why you did not ignite the Vulcan engine at the end of the 18th July combined test?
Perhaps, yeah, there is some kind of technical questions, but yeah.
So let's hand over to
Carine.
Carine.
We don't ignite completely the Vulcan engine during the test we performed the last 18th of July because we have not enough time to did it and not enough oxygen in the tanks. So we decided to stop the chronology and to retry the complete ignition of the Vulcan during the next chronology. So it will be done tomorrow morning if everything is okay in Kourou.
Thank you, Carine. Jonathan and of course Pierre, if the question was partially answered, which I think it was correctly answered, please send us a text and we will come back to you. And I see other questions coming in. Of course, one general question which everybody has on tip of the lips, which will be a nice question for you, Josef, and it's posed by Ludwig Jovanovic from the Rheinische Post. If everything works well, will we see a first launch in the first half of 2024? First question. Second question, how confident are you that Ariane 6 will hold up regarding the growing competition?
Okay. Well, they sound easy questions. They're not so straightforward. So first half of next year, that means 30th of June. As we said repeatedly, and also just a few minutes ago, we will define the launch period after the tests have been conducted. You asked if everything goes fine, whether we could meet the date before the end of June. There's a lot of uncertainties built along the way. Please allow me not to speculate at this point of time. We do promise you to give you a period, as I say, in about a month's time. But we are on good track. Let me reassure you, we have stabilized the schedule. The tests are looking really good so far. That what we got, of course, we have still very critical ones ahead. I think the chances, if everything goes perfect, are pretty good. That it's not too late in the next year, but there are still a lot of unknowns ahead of us, which we need to go through. Second point, competition. Yes, Ariane 6 will be a competitive launcher. It will be more cost efficient or cost effective, I should say, than Ariane 5. I'm sure that Stefan can elaborate much better than I can on the cost issues and the market segments. You also know that we have a rather large manifest or order book for Ariane 6, which is quite the good news, I would say. I think this is really something that we should not forget, that we're having a lot of customers waiting for the launcher to come, and Ariane 6 will certainly be a very efficient one, a cost-efficient one, especially compared to Ariane 5, but also have flexibility and versatility thanks to the APU, which was just mentioned, and the possibility to really bring payloads into different orbits in a launch sequence. But maybe Stefan wants to elaborate a bit on the competitiveness aspects.
Oh, thanks, Joseph. You said most of it. It's clear that from a technical standpoint, Ariane 6 will have many advantages on top or as compared to Ariane 5. This launcher is modular. We can make it with 2 boosters or 4 boosters. This launcher can fly more often than Ariane 5. On average, we have doubled the expected cadence as compared to Ariane 5. And in CSG, due to the CSG new generation, we could make an Ariane 6 every 2 weeks. And as we said, because it was at the heart of what has been successfully done on Friday, the upper stage is very innovative with the restartable Vinci supported by the auxiliary power unit, which is really unique. Ariane 6 will be the only launcher which will benefit from this additional overall versatility, which is brought by the APU. And the good news is that Ariane 6 is very adapted to this new market trend, which is constellation in low Earth orbit, because it's a very versatile, very capable launcher. It's perfectly adapted. Maybe 2 other points. You know that thanks to ESA program, we are already working on an evolution of Ariane 6 with more performance available, 23 tons in low Earth orbit due to some modification of the solid booster and an increase in the thrust of the Vinci. So it's a very good news, and this good news will benefit to institutional customers for heavy mission exploration. You know that this launcher is again perfectly adapted to institutional customers, the missions such as Galileo with Ariane 62. And so definitely Ariane 6 will have this capacity of addressing new market trends on the commercial market, and for sure benefiting to all European needs completed by Vega-C. Last but not least, and Joseph said a word, what is now important is also the discussions between the member states on what we call Ariane 6 and Vega-C model in stabilized phase. This is part of the overall competitiveness of the launcher. You have its intrinsic, I would say, quality competitiveness, but you have an overall competitiveness which is linked also to the level of commitment of the diverse stakeholders. And as Joseph mentioned, it will be an important part of the discussion to come, and we hope that we will have positive outcomes in Sevilla. And all in all, yes, I can tell you, Ariane 6 is really expected by our institutional and commercial customers.
Very good. So Martin Sion said it earlier, we're about 10 minutes away from the, I would say, the moment we will be able to announce the date for the inaugural flight. So there's a question from Efe, Angel Calvo. Maybe we can spell it out again. The question is, will you announce the date of the first launch in October? So let's make it clear. And which are, Martin, maybe the main uncertainty and the uncertainty?
Maybe the first part of the answer is yes, the plan is after this test to announce a date, or not a date. It will not be one day, it will be a period. But we will define this period in October. And maybe with the second part, Martin, it's more on your side. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the main uncertainty which remains are linked to the combined test in French Guiana tomorrow and the one in October. It's clear that if we discover something which is unexpected, it would create some delay, and that's what we have to check. I mean, by the way, this is why tests are done. I mean, some people tell me, you could have flown because the test of Friday was successful. The way we have chosen to develop this launcher was to make a progressive development in order to secure the reliability. So we'll see after the long fire test in French Guiana. We need to make the full exploitation of the test of Friday because maybe there are some behavior which were not in line. I don't know yet. I mean, we have a huge amount of data. People are working today, and I think it will be more than a week to be sure that everything run well. And something that which is less visible, but you have to keep in mind, is the fact that we are progressing with all the reviews, qualification reviews, with all the experts of ESA agencies, and which are looking at the justification provided by other European industry for the qualification. We had a very good session in July with all the review members in Les Mureaux. The first report is out. We have a second session which is planned in a few months, and based on these three elements, we will have reduced the uncertainties.
So we were talking about qualification, and of course, the launch base is also in the right way for qualification. If you want to say something, Philippe, just let me know. In the meantime, you want to say a few things?
No,
Okay,
it's
so
fine.
we have a technical question, and bear with us. Some are very technical. You've heard about the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit, which is a very new feature for the upper stage of the Ariane 6. You've heard about the CSG, which is the Centre Spatial Guyanais. So now back to Carine. There's a question from Jeff Faust from Space News, asking, can you elaborate on the technical issue, if there were any, that postponed the Vulcan engine hot firing test last week?
In fact, we don't have a clear technical issue. We need more time to be sure that everything was well prepared, in particular concerning the control bench, because we notice some specific behavior. So we need to understand why the control bench had this behavior. And today everything is okay, clearly explained. So we are able to perform the chronology tomorrow.
Good. Thank you very much. And bear with us also with the questions. We have a lot of questions, so I have to deal with them almost real time. So coming back to the cost here. So there's a question for you, Josef. What is the cost of the Ariane 6 development, and what is the cost of the delay, and who is bearing these costs?
Yeah. Now, the cost is in the order of course, we are reporting this regularly to our member states who are funding, by the way, the development of the launcher. The cost of the Ariane 6 development is around 4 billion euros, and which does include the development costs that are coming out due to the delay or the later start. But maybe I hand over to my new director of space transportation, Toni Tolker-Nielsen, who can probably give you a little update on the latest aspects on the planning and the financial parts of the delay.
Yes, thank you, Josef. At the moment, the cost is contained. We have normally a 20% contingency in our big development programs, and we have not yet gone over that contingency. So we are still within a standard cost overrun within ESA. So on that aspect, but we are not at the end either. So, but this is the present estimated completion.
Maybe we can have an addition from Martin.
I mean, I understand that your answer is right for ESA. You have to know that in the kind of contract that we have as industrialists with ESA, we bear our risks, and it's clear that the delay of the development of Ariane 6 has created a very significant overcost at ArianeGroup, and they are borne by ArianeGroup.
Okay, I think Jeff, you've got a complete answer. If you need more, please post additional question. In the meantime, I will get back to the questions. Daniel Chrétien from Futura Space, Futura Science. Sorry for that. Back to you, Stéphane. On the long term, can you tell us what will be the part of institutional launches in the revenue generated by with Ariane 6 services, and also get us back on the Amazon deployment deadlines and the situation with regards to the honoration of the contract?
So, yes, so regarding institutional launches, you know that the nominal scenario is to have 3 Ariane 62 and 1 Ariane 64 per year as a nominal scenario and as institutional launches. For sure, maybe some years there will be more, other years less, but this is what we have been spoken with ESA since years, and now we are estimating that it could be 3 Ariane 62 and 1 Ariane 64. In terms of revenues, it will depend on the overall level of revenue. So I prefer to speak about the launches we expect. Regarding Amazon, if you allow me, I will limit to my customers the dialogue we have with them on their deployment plan. What I can tell you is that the dialogue with Amazon is an outstanding dialogue, and it's just moving on normally according to normal discussion between a customer and us.
Okay, thank you. I have an additional question on the supply chain, maybe for Martin, on the is Ariane 6 supply chain ready to handle an active launch cadency of half week, 1 or 2 per week, or no? That's
The first, okay.
what is this question? Half a week.
Today, it's clear that the focus is moving from the initial launch, the maiden flight, to the industrial ramp-up. You have to know that it was a decision taken also with ESA a few years ago to launch the production of the first 15 Ariane 6. And so the first items of production are being built throughout Europe with our partners and inside ArianeGroup. But it's true that ramping up the whole industry, synchronizing all the activities in order to fulfill as soon as possible our customers, institutional and commercial, is another challenge. And we are well organized in order to do so. But we have also to prepare for the next batch of production, because as said Stéphane, today we have already 28 launch which are already booked, and it will be the next challenge, but I think it's a good challenge to have, okay? And the first step is to go to a production rate with allowing a flight rate of 9 to 10 per year, and to go to 1 launch every week or something, it will be another step, which is not planned today, okay?
Philippe?
No, I just wanted to add that, of course, this ramp-up question is first a good question. It's good to have this kind of question, but it's also very challenging. But the fact that we have this ramp-up and the fact that we have many customers, both institutional and commercial, means that we will have a very powerful ramp-up. And on top of that, it means that we will be able, because of this ramp-up and because of the numbers that we have, we'll be able also to reduce the cost of building this Ariane 6. So not only at ArianeGroup, but also the whole supply chain. And this is the reason why it's really important to have these numerous customers who are there, because they ensure that we have an important cadence, and behind that, a reduction of the cost.
Very good. Question from Thierry Dubois, Aviation Wing Space Technology. How long will it take between the inaugural flight and the first commercial flight? So what is the estimated gap between the two? Based on the successful upgrade.
Let's wait for the inaugural flight because if everything goes flawless and there's really nothing to be corrected and to be done, but these are bit discussions we have within the task force. We expect roughly 6 months plus minus as a period, but it really depends on whether this all goes flawless and without any hiccups. And as always, keep fingers crossed because these are very important moments, as you can imagine.
I think if I may, Joseph, we were all sharing the same data approximately 6 months. The only question was who is going to say it first. So, so I think I think we are all aligned. And again, as said by Joseph, we are not working in the task force only on the maiden flight. We are working on the coming launches. And just to go ahead, a question you could have, we have not decided yet who would be the second customer. We are still working on different scenarios. But it's very important for you to have in mind that we are not here only to work on the first, but we already work on all the other comings and to fine tune and to optimize all what we can optimize.
So I have two questions here, which are relatively the same. One from Peter Lisselding and Anne Boer from Les Echos. Peter is from Space Intel Report. So the question, at least his first part of the question is, what would be the consequence on Ariane 6 delays on the pressure for the Galileo program and the next launch of Galileo? And then also what solution has been decided for the remaining satellite waiting to be launched? And that also refer to Galileo, but also CSO3.
But here, in fact, if I would say it's not a question on Ariane 6, it's a question on Soyuz. Because Soyuz was supposed to deliver missions when there has been the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. And as you know, there were 11 Soyuz which were supposed to be done. And you know that we have had a very important discussion with OneWeb. We have supported OneWeb for the reallocation of the mission when they went to India. Then there are 5 other launches which were for Europe scheduled on Soyuz. Euclid has been launched by another launcher. It will be the same for EarthCare. For CSO, I will give the floor to Philippe. And regarding the Galileo, it's really a decision of the European Commission based on operational needs. And these satellites were supposed to be launched in 2022 with 2 Soyuz. We are now at the end of 2023. Galileo is an operational constellation, and we will see what will be the decision of the European Commission. And whatever it will be, we will fully understand and support it.
Very good. Philippe?
Just perhaps a word to come back on this question. It has been mentioned by Stefan, but I think it's really very important. Of course, there is a crisis of launchers in Europe. We all know that, and this is the reason why we are all focused on having Ariane 6 as soon as possible. But as far as institutional launch are concerned, I mean, the root of the crisis is mostly the Soyuz storm. And we have to keep this in mind because, I mean, we decided, or our predecessors have decided to use Soyuz to launch almost all of our institutional payload, including defense, security, and so on. And of course, the war in Ukraine had tremendous consequence, and this is the end of Soyuz in French Guiana, and this has huge consequence on the situation today. But we have to keep this in mind. The end of Ariane 5 is not really has almost no impact directly on these institutional payloads that could have not been launched on Ariane 5.
Good. Coming back to you, Peter, on your question for the schedule, next step for the remaining upper stage in Lampoldshausen. Martin has mentioned earlier what was the next, but can we be more precise in what the so-called HFT4 test planning is concerned, hot firing test in Lampoldshausen, and also a question on the delivery. So this is from Stefan Baranski, Aerospace. He wants to know whether the Ariane 6 FM1, the flight module number 1, will be transferred, and when will it be transferred to Kourou? Will it have to wait for the degraded test that you are going to talk about in Lampoldshausen? Or do we have to wait until the FM1 hardware is fully ready?
I mean, for the additional test that we plan to do in Lampoldshausen, it will be done in autumn, and so it will be done before the end of the year, obviously, and so it's not there is no high pressure for this test compared to the flight date, and we plan to deliver FM1 in October to French Guiana, and if you were to come in Leveau today, you would see most of the elements of the stage which are being ready. Same thing in Bremen, and so things are going pretty well in the preparation of FM1.
Good, and I jump on this, of course, to inform everyone that we are going to make sure some of you journalists who are very interested will be able to attend, watch, visit the Ariane 6 facility in Kourou as well as in Leveau. We are working hard together to have a video of the hot firing test, the long firing test, which will happen in October, whether it's going to be live streamed to everyone or whether the short time of the test, the roughly 470 seconds, will be broadcast with a slight delay, the time for us to capture everything and distribute. This will still go, but the invitation is there. We will send you an invite again and details for Kourou and for Leveau. And at that time, I really invite everyone to take the time to look at the FM1, but not only FM2, FM3, FM4 engines. The production is already going on for a while. So I have a questions on Vega C. Joseph, can we give a small update on Vega C and the payloads?
Yeah. Vega C, as you know, there was the Zefiro 40 test in Sardinia just before the summer break, which did not succeed. So what we have done, I've called for an independent inquiry board, which is ongoing right now. So they are working on identifying the root cause. So it is not yet, this work is not yet finalized. They are still working on it. In fact, just before the weekend, I was asking what is the time schedule now, and when the work is finalized. In fact, this will happen before the end of this month, so before the end of September, and we will, that means the team working on it, will inform you of its outcome. So today we're in the midst of the process. It's too early to say something now on the root cause, but it will be informed in about a month's time.
Good. So we will have a press briefing after the report, and I would like to invite everyone to wait until we have this meeting for any questions regarding to the progress on the return of Vega C. I have another question here from Emilio Cozzi. Is it possible to say how much will Ariane 6 cost at the end of its development? I think we've partially answered this already, but I'm not so sure we can really anticipate what would be the end cost of the development, Joseph.
Well, I think this is an information to be given at the launch date on the inaugural flight when everything is wrapped up and we have full visibility. And certainly this will depend also on the date of this inaugural flight, and I will certainly provide this information.
I think your question was also related, at least from Daniel Chrétien, to you, Stéphane, about the inflation. Would the price of the Ariane 6 be impacted by the inflation?
So the cost of the recurring cost of Ariane 6 are impacted by inflation because we are in the real economy, and you can imagine that we have the same issues, and maybe I will hand over to Martin, but for sure there is inflation, and we have to cope with this fact.
Yeah, as SpaceX does, because the question was expected a raise of the price as SpaceX did. So
the price is better to speak about them with customers.
Okay, I'm looking at other questions. Joseph, there are still some questions about the communication policy. So I'm looking at my boss in terms of communication policy. Maybe you can recap a little bit all the effort we're trying to implement in getting on a more regular basis to you? It was said at the beginning, but I still have questions.
No, thank you. And actually, as the one who asked the question probably knows, I'm quite committed in increasing transparency and informing the public much more than probably we used to do in the past. Also, time have changed, and therefore we obviously adjust to new practices and new requirements. But let me just recall some of the elements that I have put in place already, and some of it will still come. First of all, vis-a-vis our member states, we are regularly reporting to them. One of them is sitting right next to me. Philippe happens also to be a very strong member state within ESA, especially in the Ariane program, the leading representing the leading participating state. So there we regularly update our member states on the various issues that are ongoing, technical issues, programmatic issues, and this is, I would say, almost normal business. But we have intensified this communication, and we do it now at every single meeting so that they really are on top of it and know perfectly well what happens. And of course, if there are things in between, I update them in between. But this is on the side of my stakeholders as ESA, that means the 22 member states. But of course, you have other stakeholders in different communities, and there are also regular updates being done. Then, as regards the presentation to the public, that means meetings like this one here. As you know, in June, we decided in the task force that we will significantly increase the level of reporting to the journalists and to the public. So we have done this. You have seen several of these reports after the task force meetings being published. As I mentioned earlier, another update will be published today, and we will continue to do so until the inaugural flight for sure, and maybe even beyond, but certainly until the inaugural flight, that you know that you can follow us, or I would say almost on a routine basis, what are the issues at stake, the problems. And I have to be very open to you. It is not always good news that we are publishing or have to publish. Depends a bit on if there are some delays. We will be very open and forthcoming to you to just tell you what it is, and also what the reasons are of some of the news that are coming along. But I'm committed to really keep you informed. And then, of course, there's the wider communication aspect, but this is going beyond the launcher part within ESA. Similarly, I'm at the moment going through a transformation exercise within ESA, and transparency communication is part of it. Some of you have seen it. You're getting some information on embargo. You're getting access to some of our experts, either in the launcher business or in satellite developments or in the data evolution, data usage part. So overall, ESA will become much more open, much more transparent, giving you access to documents in order to really make sure that you well understand what's happening, because there's so much to tell. And actually, it's very good news that we have to report, and there's a lot happening in space and in Europe. And actually, we should be very proud and forthcoming with providing you all the information that we have.
Good. Thank you. We're getting really to the end. I have a very, very last question, but all the other one which we haven't taken can be, of course, addressed to us via the media.int mail. We will make sure we answer within the time frame that is needed. The question here is regarding the Ukraine, so it's about Vega. I just say that Vega will be explained before, but since you put the questions as a matter of priority, I'll ask the question, read the question. I have heard, this is from Teresa Pultarova from space.com. I have heard some conflicting information from Ukraine about the future of the cooperation with UFMASH. Some says it's about to end. Someone else say it's been extended. Any change? You could shed light on that and maybe kill the rumor.
First of all, this is up to the industry, the prime contractor, which is Avio, to procure, and they have their procurement chain. So it's not for me to answer for them what their procurement policy is or their future intention is. So I would strongly recommend to wait for either the debriefing on the IAB, as I mentioned before, or address this question directly to Avio, because they are the ones to answer.
So we will organize this briefing after the inquiry board will provide a report, and we will make sure Avio is there to answer this question. So Teresa, maybe you keep your question for about a month from now. Just to recall where we're going in the next coming weeks, which is going to be busy. We had a good success last Friday, but it's not the end of it. We talk about 4 seconds of high expectation tomorrow in the Kourou for the short test. We have a long test now planned on the 3rd of October. We heard also that the shipment of Flight Model 1 is going to be organized in the October timeframe, and then there will be still some additional tests, not critical but important for degraded mode of the upper stage, the so-called hot firing test number 4 in Lampoldshausen. With all that, I hope that we've been as clear as possible, as exhaustive as possible. Also, I would like to really thank not individual, but the team who is here. I've seen them working in the task force. They're taking this at the highest level of their organization. Motivation is over there. Everyone wants Ariane 6 to be there as soon as possible, and everyone is working very hard in that direction. With that, I wish you a very good afternoon, and thank you for having joined us for the day.